So when you say the fire speaks back, well, Varys says the fire speaks back when he's telling the story, which is then being retold, and it's 30 years later.
Today we're stepping into the storm of controversy surrounding Nettles, a scrappy, fearless dragonseed from Fire and Blood, whose very existence sparks two of the wildest debates in A Song of Ice and Fire fandom. First, is she truly a dragonseed, blessed with that particular strain of elusive Valyrian blood, or just a clever girl who tamed Sheepstealer with a few well-placed sheep? Some fans cling to the hope that her story shatters the myth of genetic destiny. No silver hair, no purple eyes, just grit and guts. Others argue her bond with a dragon proves the special blood of Old Valyria runs in her veins. Second, a real-world clash that set the fandom ablaze. Martin himself versus Ryan Condal, the mastermind behind House of the Dragon. Condal's adaptation has left Nettles out of Season 2, a move that's got fans howling, and George, well, let's just say he's not thrilled. Why does this matter so much to him? Could it be that Nettles' heirs, born of her rumoured fling with Daemon Targaryen, carry the dragon blood forward, a lineage that seems to whisper through the Duncan Eggtails and stretch all the way to the Game of Thrones era? In these videos, we're chasing the threads of Nettles' legacy through blood, betrayal, and a battle of creative wills. Now let's step into the muck and mire of Nettles' tale, Nettie as some call her. A dragon seed who defied the odds and tamed a beast where lords and knights failed. Picture this. It's 129 AC, the sowing of the seeds, a desperate gambit by Prince Jacaerys to bind riders to wild dragons amid the dance of the dragons. Enter Nettles, a small girl, black-haired, brown-eyed, brown-skinned, skinny, foul-mouthed, and fearless. No silver locks or purple gaze like the Valyrians or Targaryens, just grit. Fire and Blood paints her vividly. In the end, the brown dragon was brought to heel by the cunning and persistence of a small brown girl of 6 and 10, who delivered him a freshly slaughtered sheep every morning until Sheepstealer learned to accept and expect her. Munchen names her Nettles. Mushroom, ever the gossip, calls her Nettie, a bastard born to a dockside whore. Whatever her given name, she became the first and last rider of Sheepstealer. But here's the spark that lights the fire: no Valyrian features. So how did she claim a dragon? Was it sheep and stubbornness? Or something deeper in her blood? That brings us to the rogue prince himself, Damon Targaryen, and the whispered question, could he be her father? Nettles was born in 113 AC, meaning she was conceived around late 112 or early 113. Daemon, born in 81 AC, was 32 then, a man in his prime, notorious for his appetites. Fire and Blood doesn't mince words. Daemon was a man of large appetites. He had a taste for maidens, whores, and the wives of other men. Let's track him. In 111 AC, after a bitter spat with his brother Viserys over a cruel toast, ere for a day, Daemon was exiled. He lingered on Dragonstone, then roared off to the Stepstones with Corlys to wage war against the Triarchy. From 111 to 115 AC, he was knee-deep in blood and salt, ruling from Bloodstone as king of the Stepstones and the Narrow Sea. Driftmark, home of the Valyrians and a stone's throw from Nettles' supposed birthplace, was his ally's stronghold, but not his base. By 115 AC, he tired of his crown, returned to Driftmark. Here is the quote. In 115 AC, Daemon Targaryen abandoned his kingdom in the Stepstones and returned to the court of his brother. He came first to Driftmark, where he wed the Lady Laena Velaryon. So could Daemon have sired Nettles? The timeline is tight. In 112 AC, when she was likely conceived, he was entrenched in the Stepstones, far from Driftmark's docks. But he wasn't a stranger there. His alliance with Corlys meant ships, men, and maybe a fleeting visit or two. No chronicle pins him at Driftmark exactly then, but his roving nature leaves a crack in the door. A dalliance with a lowborn woman, a dockside whore, as Mushroom claims, fits his legend. And her look? Black-haired, brown-eyed, brown-skinned, no Valyrian shimmer, but a mirror to the olive-skinned, dark-haired Myrish, like George R.R, the crab feeder he slew in 108 AC, or the sun-darkened Dornish who joined the Triarchy's banners against him by 109 or 110 AC. Her mother might have been a daughter of Myr's bustling ports, or Dawn's sandy shores crossed by Daemon's warpath in those blood-soaked years. Her lack of silver traits doesn't rule out his blood. Bastards often take after their mothers. Is it proof? No, but it's a shadow that lingers, a thread that could tie Nettles' dragon bond to the blood of House Targaryen or to the tangled legacy of the Stepstones itself. And importantly, this line of thinking supports the Dragon X gene theory of Jacob's that we are so fond of. Each of Daemon's book daughters have his special X chromosome and ride dragons. Now we wade into the heart of the mystery. Daemon and Nettles. George, obviously and purposefully, asks us to debate this question. Was she, his daughter, a bastard born of his wild youth, or his lover, a flame that burned too bright for Rhaenyra's court to bear? Fire and Blood hands us a tangle of three voices, Maester Norrin and the Full Mushroom and Archmaester Gildane, and leaves us to pick the truth from the shadows. Let's start with the gentler tale. Norrin, scribbling from Maidenpool in 130 AC, saw a father's touch. He writes that the prince and his bastard girl slept in adjoining bedchambers, that the prince doted upon the brown girl as a man might dote upon his daughter, and instructed her in common courtesies. He gave her fine gifts, an ivory-handled hairbrush, a silvered looking-glass, a cloak of rich brown velvet bordered in satin, a pair of leather riding boots, a doting mentor showering her with treasures, paternal, not passionate. And when Rhaenyra's blade came for Nettles' neck, Daemon defied his queen. A queen's words, a whore's work. The next morn, Nettles mounted Sheepstealer and departed Maidenpool. Prince Daemon watched her go, then turned to face his fate. A father's shield, some say, forged from guilt or love, letting her flee while he faced Aemond alone. If she was born in 113 AC, a quick tumble in Driftmark's shadows around 112 could fit. Daemon was 32, restless, and near enough geographically before the Stepstones swallowed him. But then there's Mushroom, that leering jester, spinning a spicier yarn. He swears Daemon took Nettles as his lover. According to Mushroom, Daemon had come to love Nettles, and took her as his bedmate, despite the fact that she was an unlikely paramour for a prince. Gildane considers this story to be far more likely than most of Mushroom's tales. Even Gildane, ever the skeptic, nods at this one. The whispers from Maidenpool, if actually true and not purposefully twisted, back it up. A maidservant claimed to have seen them abed together and bathing together in a tub, though the size of the tub was never mentioned. Scandal in the steam, enough to set Rhaenyra's blood boiling, and she spat venom, saying, "She is a common thing, with the stink of sorcery upon her. My prince would ne'er lay with such a low creature. It was with spells that she bound a dragon to her, and she has done the same with my lord husband." Jealousy drove her to demand Nettles' head, but love spared Daemon. So where's the truth? Norrin paints a protector, gifting boots and brushes, risking all to save her. A father's echo, maybe tied to a Driftmark tryst during the Stepstones War. Mushroom and Rhaenyra see a paramour, tangled in sheets and tubs, a romance that fits the rogue prince's reckless heart. The timeline teases both. Born in 113 AC, Nettles was 16 when she met Daemon in 129, 17 when they hid at Maidenpool. His Stepstones years, 111 to 115, narrow the window for fatherhood, but his libertine shadow looms large. Fire and Blood won't pick a side, Norrin's quiet care or Mushroom's lustful clash. It's a riddle wrapped in dragonflame. Daughter or lover, Nettles binds Daemon's legend tighter, a thread of blood or desire that twists through the dance and beyond. Which do you believe? But Nettles' story doesn't vanish with Sheepstealer's wings. We still must tackle the clash that's got the fandom roaring. Martin versus House of the Dragon's Ryan Condal, who has axed Nettles from Season 2, a cut that left George bristling. Why does it hit him so hard? Maybe because her bloodline and Daemon's likely ripples through Dunk and Egg and beyond. We've learned some coconut ideas about where Nettles ended up, hints of her fate pieced together by the fandom with a bit of sleuthing. And if Daemon was her father and not her lover, we have a text-based theory about who might have fathered her child. The threads of her legacy are ours to chase. Subscribe now, stay hungry, and don't believe everything Mushroom says.